Never watch this video after midnight. You've been warned. The video started on its own at 12:05, right when the clock in my kitchen blinked over to 12:05 a.m. I should have closed my laptop and gone to bed. I should have listened to the little warning note taped to the back of the flash drive. Never watch this after midnight, you've been warned. I did not listen. The screen showed a small, grainy room. It was the kind of video you see in true crime boards, shaky, dim, with bad light and worse sound. For the first 10 seconds, nothing happened. Then a face leaned into the frame like someone stepping out of the dark. It was the neighbor who had gone missing 3 months ago, Mr. Avery, his mouth moving but without sound. The file had no audio. The picture was choppy, like it had been torn by time. At first I thought it was a recording of something old. Then the man in the video blinked and wiped his forehead, and when he did, a long shadow moved across the wall behind him. A second later, the shadow in the video looked exactly like the shadow on the wall behind the laptop in my kitchen. I paused. My heart thudded once and then a dozen more times. The shadow continued to move on the screen. On my own wall the shadow matched it, step for step, like a puppet copying a puppet. I could not see anyone in my kitchen besides me. The cat was asleep on the couch. My hands were steady on the chair arm. My breath came out loud. The man in the video reached up and pointed at the camera. He mouthed something slow and careful. I leaned forward because I wanted to read his lip. The letters were clear, like chalk on a board. Don't watch after midnight. I laughed then, a small, foolish laugh, a reflex against fear. The laugh was swallowed by the heavy quiet in my house. The video flickered. The man in the video looked past the camera and smiled, and for a second the smile was not his. It was a grin that did not belong to any face that had been kind to me. Then the screen split with static and the video switched scenes like someone cutting to another tape. Now the video showed my street. My own street. The grainy camera pointed down at a mailbox, at the dented red curb, at Mr. Avery's old porch light. I felt cold. I recognized the rust streak on the mailbox, the same crooked flag. The camera in the video moved slowly, as if someone was walking it down the sidewalk, and the light from a street lamp made a thin line on the pavement. I had walked that path 1,000 times. Then the camera turned. For a heartbeat, the video showed the doorway to my house, our doorway, and then the screen went black. Behind me there was a sound. I heard breathing. Not my breathing. Not even the cat's. It was a breath very close to the ear, slow and wet, like someone who had been running. I did not move. I could not move. My fingers dug into the chair. The hair along my arms prickled. The video came back. The new shot was of my own living room. It was filmed from a point near the TV, and the angle matched the one I had when I stood by the sink. The camera in the video panned slowly and stopped right where I was sitting, right where my chair was. For a second, the frame showed the back of an empty chair. Then something small and pale moved into view in the video, a hand, pale as paper, fingers too long, pressing against the back of the chair. The breath at my ear rasped again. My skin crawled. My phone on the table lit up with a notification, but I did not look. On the video screen, the pale hand lowered and pointed directly at me. The fingers bent and unbent like a counting finger. I felt my name on the tip of the finger even before I heard any sound. The laptop speakers crackled. A voice came out of the thin speakers. It was a voice I did not know, layered like a radio station playing 2 songs at once. The voice said my name. It sounded like the panning of a fan and the pull of something heavy at the same time. Maya, it said, and I could hear fingernails on glass. My throat closed. I had lived my whole life thinking I was careful, that I was a person who did not scare easily. But the voice was the kind of thing that makes your blood stop being friendly. I stood up before I knew what I was doing. The chair scraped. The cat jumped and ran under the couch. The breath behind me stopped like a suction closing. On the screen, the man, Mr. Avery, peered around the edge of my chair in the video and looked right into the camera. He smiled sadly, and behind him the long pale hand rested on his shoulder. He wagged his head as if to say, "Too late." Something knocked on the front door then. Not loud, just a polite rapping, like someone checking to see if anyone was home. My hands were numb and cold. I walked toward the sound because my legs still obeyed the old laws of curiosity. At the door I stood very still, listening. The knock came again, 3 slow taps. The perfect pattern of someone who knew the house. My phone buzzed again. A text message flashed across the black screen. "We told you. You didn't listen. You didn't listen and now it's on you." I did not know who sent it. There was no number, just empty space. The video on the laptop showed the back of my door now, the same old scuffs by the lock, the dent the dog had left years ago when she slammed her shoulder into it. The camera in the video moved closer. A shadow fell across the edge of the screen like a curtain. In the corner of the video, a small pale face turned and looked directly at the lens. It had eyes that were too wide, and in one ear was the same thin wire of a hearing aid that Grandma used to wear before she died. The face in the video smiled. It mouthed one word, "Open." I felt my hand on the doorknob before I realized I had reached for it. My fingers tightened. The knob was cool and unyielding. My other hand hovered over the deadbolt. I thought of everything that had been taped to that flash drive in the first place. The note, the warnings, the forum threads. I thought of Mr. Avery's missing poster with his tired eyes and his thin mustache. I thought of warnings people leave to scare others, of hoaxes, of morning light that fixes everything. I thought of all the small logical things that would have kept me safe. The doorknob turned. It turned by itself, slow and easy as if someone somewhere had twisted it from the other side. The deadbolt slid out with a click. The door opened a crack and a small hand slipped through the gap. It was the same pale hand from the video, but up close it looked wrong. The skin was translucent in the hallway light, and I could see fine blue lines running like rivers under it. The fingers were long and crooked and smelled like cold iron. The cat yowled from under the couch. Someone breathed into the kitchen, low and close and smelling of rain and old wood. Then there was a whisper, a sound that might have been my name or might have been nothing at all. On the laptop screen, the man in the video raised his hand and made a gesture I could not name. The pale fingers on the door moved like twins with the fingers in the video. "Why?" the voice behind me said. "Did you watch?" I turned. Behind me, not more than an arm's length away, stood Mr. Avery. He looked exactly like he did in the missing posters, a little thinner, tired, but alive in a way that had nothing to do with breathing. His pupils were too dark and his lips were dry. He stared at me with the weary stare of someone who had been waiting. I started, but no sound came. I felt as if someone had wrapped my throat in velvet and left me trying to sing under water. On the laptop, the screen filled with white. The white was too bright. It felt like a snow that could cut. When the white cleared, the video showed a live feed of my kitchen, recorded from a glinting perspective under an arm. I could see my own feet on the rug, my slippers, a smear of coffee on the counter. The camera pulled back slowly, and my heart hammered like a drum. The camera moved toward the place where Mr. Avery stood. The angle shifted almost casually, and then the view swung up. The lens pointed straight at my face. I felt the lens like a hot thing in my eye. The man in the video, Mr. Avery, lifted his hand to the camera as if offering something. The pale shadow hand reached over his shoulder and touched his mouth. On the screen, Mr. Avery's lips parted. He spoke again, but the sound was warped as if played through an old radio. The words came out like the voice on the laptop speakers had said, "You were warned." He smiled, and his smile widened until it was not his smile anymore. The pale hand on his shoulder loosened and reached over his head. Pointed out past the camera, at me, at my house, at the quiet street outside. The fingers wavered and then closed into a fist. The fist moved like a wind going through a curtain, and then the video cut. Everything went black for a second. My chest felt like a trapped bird. I realized my phone had stopped buzzing. The house was quiet, but the quiet was new and heavy, like a door that had closed behind something I could not see. I do not remember when I told myself to breathe. I do remember the sound of the cat claws scrabbling as she dug herself further under the couch, and the way my tongue stuck to the roof of my mouth. I remember the scratch of my own name in my chest. Then, without warning, everything in the house began to hum. The refrigerator kicked on with a low thud. The street outside seemed to breathe. The laptop screen flashed. The video started again. Only this time the file name at the top read, next, 12:14 a.m. I stared at the time until the numbers blurred. I could not tell if the video was telling me that a thing would happen at 12:14 a.m. or that it would show what had already happened at 12:14 a.m. But the hair on my arms raised and, with it, the old sense of a script being followed. A voice, the same wet whisper from before, slid across the kitchen like spilled water. "You were warned," it said again. "Now it begins." Then my kitchen window lit up with a movement outside. Not a person passing the street, not a car, but a shape that the streetlight made on the curtains. The shape was wrong. It had a long neck and a slow, folding gait like someone stepping out of a dream. It paused at the window, and put a pale hand to the glass. I could see the outline of fingers press flat. For an awful second, the hand looked like a second, brighter moon. The video on my laptop froze with the word, "Live," blinking in red. The camera in the video tilted and the lens caught the side of a face at the window, a face with two wide eyes, with hair that fell in the wrong directions, and with a smile that made my stomach drop into my shoes. Then, someone on the video reached for the door, not the back of the chair this time, not some empty space, but the door to my house. The pale hand pushed, and the handle turned. My real door, here in my real kitchen, swung open farther. The cat screamed. I could hear slow feet on the porch. The thing outside did not knock. It did not need to. The door opened like a mouth. "Don't watch," the video whispered, and the face at the window turned its head in a movement so sudden it made the air in my kitchen rip. I moved backward. My foot hit the rug. The cat shot past my legs and ran for the bedroom. The thing at the window laughed, a small sound like marbles falling into a well. On the screen the man's lips moved, slow and deliberate. "If you open the door, you will see what we saw. If you do not open the door, it will wait. If you close your eyes, it will learn to move without you." I slammed the laptop shut. The screen went black. The hush that followed was as loud as thunder. My hands shook so badly I could not get the clip on the computer closed. The tiny white light on the laptop blinked as if nervous. The house sat like something that had been waiting its whole life to be noticed. I pressed my palms to my eyes until colors flared and the room spun. When I opened them, the house was normal in the way a movie set is normal when the fog machines stop. The front door was closed. The porch light outside hummed its steady buzz. The palm-sized dent in the door was still there, and the mail slot was empty. The clock on the microwave read 12:12 a.m. I breathed. I told myself I could call someone, that I could leave, that I could drive to the police. I told myself that it was a prank, a clever deepfake from some internet troll, a clever hoax Grandma might have laughed at. I told myself many things because the one thing I would not say out loud was the thought that stayed on the edge of my mind like a cold coin. The video knew the house. The video knew now. The hum of the refrigerator was a metronome. My phone vibrated and lit up with the same empty message. "You didn't listen. Now it's on you." I grabbed the flash drive from the pantry where I had hidden it inside a cereal box, the place safe because no one would look there at midnight. My hands were shaking so that the metal of the stick felt hot. I yanked it out and threw it into the trash. It bounced off a tin can and rolled like a small silver insect into the dark. I took a breath and sat down at the table. The kitchen lights made everything too bright. I thought of the warning note on the flash drive. I thought of the long list of missing people in the town forum I had been trawling through for the last few weeks. I had been looking for something, a clue, a pattern, a reason why the neighbor had disappeared, and instead I had found the wrong thing at the wrong time. My mind went back to how all of this had started. It had started as a small, quiet curiosity. A missing person post on a forum. An anonymous user who posted a clip with a black background and one line of white text. Never watch this after midnight. You've been warned. The clip had been attached to a larger thread full of wild theories. Ritual, cult, internet hoax. It had been dismissed and upvoted and dismissed again. Someone said it was an art project. Someone said it was an advertisement. Someone else said the post was from a number nobody could trace. In the comments, names of the missing were listed. Date, times. A map with red pins. I had been bored and brave and too tired, the way most of us are late at night. I had clicked the link the way I click links at 3 in the morning, when the house is thin and the world seems to be soft and there is nothing to do but solve a mystery that really does not belong to me. The file had downloaded fast, and my computer had turned the little icon into a play button. There had been a warning, typed in block letters that looked like someone's handwriting, "Do not watch after midnight." I had smirked at the melodrama and shoved the flash drive into my drawer. The next evening, when the wind had been loud and the house had felt like an empty theater, I had taken it back out. I had told myself I would watch a minute and then close it. I would take a screenshot for the forum and post it and go to bed. I would be clever. That was how the small monster had grown its claws. The town where I lived had its own small ghosts. People said that the river alone could hold a dozen secrets, and that if you walked down at dusk you could hear voices through the reed. I had always thought those stories were ways to keep kids from wandering near the water. But in the forum threads there were records. Neighbors who forgot a name, who lost a pet, who came home to find a chair moved and a window open and a shoe missing. Nothing too dramatic to wake national news, but enough to stir a pattern. The missing list dated back month. Mr. Avery had been last seen a week before Thanksgiving. He was simple, a man with a tidy yard and a taste for Sunday paper. The police had questioned a few people and filled out a report. They had chalked it up to wandering. People go missing, they said. Sometimes they come back. Sometimes they do not. On the forum, someone had posted a shaky video of the porch light blinking at odd times. Another person posted a photo of a shadow on a wall that did not match any object in the room. There were jokes. There are always jokes, but in the bottom of the thread people began to whisper about the flash drive. Someone claimed to have received the stick in the mail. Someone had found it under their doormat. Another said they threw theirs out and the next night the lights went off and the thing at their window tapped and tapped until dawn. I had not believed any of it until my house had moved like a creature waking up from sleep and the video had looked at my shoes and smiled. When I tried to tell myself the story in the light of morning, it would have been one thing. Right then, with the kitchen clock ticking toward 12:13 a.m., even my attempt at logic felt brittle. I went to the pantry and took the trash out. The flash drive was still there, silver and smug. I put it in my pocket without thinking. If I could get rid of it, if I could throw it into the river or mail it to someone who could analyze it, maybe that would be enough. The hum in the house stepped up, not loud but present, like the sound the world makes when something important is about to happen. My phone vibrated for the last time and then fell silent. The microwave dinged though it had not been set. The clock flipped, 12:14. Outside the window, down the street, a porch light went out. A house across the way went dark like a candle snuff. The shadow at my window moved. The pale fingers curled. Inside the laptop, the video restarted on its own, and the frame read in red. Live, 12:14 a.m. I had thought the worst had already happened. I had thought closing the computer and turning away would be enough. But the thing on the screen was not a thing that understood enough. It was a machine that read fear and wrote its own letters. It had found me, and it had found the time when the dark opens like a mouth. The screen showed my living room again. It was a perfect copy. My own chair, my own rug, my own teacup. The perspective shifted to show the inside of my bedroom, and on the bed, something moved, like a folded blanket shifting as if a weight had been lifted off it. The video zoomed in, and I saw, with a cold that felt like someone lowering a bucket of ice onto my chest, a pair of shoes under the bed that I knew were not mine. On the laptop, the man smiled. The pale hand pointed at the shoes. The fingers curled and then opened like a bloom. I had the flash drive in my pocket. My thumb rubbed its edge,